A Doggone Hollywood is the best film ever made. Its phenomenal ensemble cast, stellar direction, precise editing, and outstanding special effects make it amongst the greatest of 2017. Wait, let me try that again. A Doggone Hollywood is the best film ever made about a dog who wants to live a life separate from being a TV star. Shit, hang on, one more time. A Doggone Hollywood is the best film ever made about a dog in the year 2017. It stars a dog named Jesse, who is a YouTube celebrity dog whose channel has over 170,000 subscribers. And somehow that was enough to convince a production company to make not only one, but 3 movies about this dog. That's right, it's actually a sequel to a movie called A Doggone Christmas, which I wasn't aware of when I first watched A Doggone Hollywood. I respect the universe building that these movies are going for, especially led by the greatest dog character ever written for a children's film. Last year in 2017. I tried to do some research on the production company that made this movie, Team 5 Entertainment, and on their Facebook page, I found a picture of their production logo, and the caption reads, "Films is now entertainment." And then they also commented on their own post and said, "That's what we do best." It looks like whoever originally made this post had a typo because they accidentally wrote "Films is not entertainment," but then they quickly corrected themselves. I honestly think these guys could be the next A24, I mean it. I approached this film with an open and optimistic viewpoint, which was preceded by a very deep lowering of my standards. It was near this part of the Earth's crust before I clicked play, and I have to say it, I loved this film. If I had to rate it on a scale of 1 to 10, it would get an 11, because it is just that good. Every little joke, beat of action, and line of dialogue were superb. The shot composition, character development, and overall presentation and look of the film are amongst the most technically impressive of the year. The Academy Award nominations were announced recently, and honestly, I was surprised to see the lack of award attention for this film. A Doggone Hollywood is better than any of the 10 Best Picture nominees, by far. I was also surprised to see that there was very little information on Wikipedia or Rotten Tomatoes about this hidden gem. It was then that I felt compelled to bring this movie into the spotlight, to make sure that it gets seen by as many folks as possible. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the zipline. This is A Doggone Hollywood.
Yes. Yes. Oh God.
Yeah, anyways, this movie is schlock.
Can I get a drink here, please?
So where should we begin with this film? I mean, let's talk about the elephant in the room, or should I say the frickin' cute little pupper in the room. Murphy, aka Jesse the Jack, is a very untalented dog actor. It's very apparent from watching all the shots of this pup, some of which are just lazily recycled, that the filmmakers had such a hard time getting this simple dog to behave like a dog with a personality instead of just being, you know, A dog. But that's not even the best part. This dog talks, and it's both incredible yet befuddling at the same time.
But he can actually talk? I don't believe it.
Believe it, Isaac. Believe it. I've been talking for years.
My favorite part of the dog voice actor's performance in this movie is how he'll just take his dialogue so over the top that it feels like it was meticulously synced to the footage for a few days in a sound studio in someone's garage with the director and an audio engineer.
So they tell me. Yeah! You see, I've been locked away so long, I've been behind the times.
This movie is so cheesy and it could not give a single shit at all. Now let me stress, this movie is very transparently schlock. But honestly, I don't think anyone cares, especially the filmmakers. This is a sequel to a movie about a YouTube famous dog, and it's free to watch with an Amazon Prime account, even though I paid these sleazy fuckers $15 for the DRM free version on Vimeo. As soon as I randomly landed on the movie's IMDb page one night, I knew I had to see this film for better or worse. And I did watch the film all the way through without pausing it. And let me say this, it's honestly not the worst film I've ever seen. Now don't get me wrong, this movie is bad. I really do mean that.
Okay.
But there are some basic storytelling elements that make this slap together D movie not a complete waste of my time. And I truly mean that. Jim Wynorski, if you see this movie, just know that your movie briefly amused me. And that's about the most I can say. Let's just zip into the plot of this film so I can show you why I think it isn't completely devoid of quality. Just mostly. This movie is like watching a CVS coupon come out of the receipt machine. You know it's not going to take very long, but at the end of it, it kind of makes you wonder why something so simple requires so many resources. Before we go any further, let's acknowledge the fact that the people who made this movie went through the trouble of hiring someone to write and then record a song that is named after the movie that it's featured in. And it's written from the dog's perspective. And you know what? It's not half bad. If that's not a hallmark of a classic movie, I don't know what is. It's obvious that some kind of organized crew shot this movie. I'm sorry. I couldn't keep a straight face. I'm sorry. This movie was made by like 10 or 20 people and a dog. And it really proves the level of filmmaking ineptitude on a set when you can't even figure out how to film your movie in 24 frames a second. Or maybe they just filmed it in 30 frames a second anyways because it would make it look funnier or easier for kids to absorb. I don't know. You know, the average movie generally has credits around 4 to 5 minutes in length, but this movie's credits are only 1 minute and 45 seconds long. That's it. This movie doesn't even have enough credits to be taken seriously as a legitimate film. Everyone on set just wanted to do something film related. Were they paid? Who knows? They obviously had enough to get all these actors in locations, and by that I mean recording 60% of your movie in front of a fucking green screen, like a Star Wars prequel or something. It's so noticeable, like, look at this scene of a group of kids sitting at a table outside by a soccer field. They're clearly not outdoors, they're absolutely in front of a green screen. Could you guys really not get them for a day to go to a school on the weekend and film an actual scene? Come on. I know that child labor laws are a thing, but you know what? I just have to try to not take this film too seriously. I just gotta keep reminding myself that. I mean, it's hard though. I mean, when you're reviewing a movie with a title like A Doggone Hollywood, there's a couple questions you have to ask yourself. Number one, why did they name their movie something grammatically incorrect? The first movie's title makes sense, A Doggone Christmas. Plenty of Christmas specials and TV movies have a blank Christmas as the title, but A Doggone Hollywood? Hollywood is not an event or occurrence, it's a geographical place. Number two, why am I getting this worked up about a movie starring a fucking dog? Number three, what do you think it was like to be on the set of a movie that is basically a live ripoff of a Disney animated movie, but it's 10 times worse? Was it awkward? Was everybody there just dicking around on set? Number four, is there a heaven? And do you think that the director of this film is going to go there? The story is really simple, and by that, I mean it's stupid. You know, there's an often repeated phrase in screenwriting, which is, keep it simple, stupid. It's pretty self-explanatory. But I think that the screenwriter for this film took this so literally that it became so simplistic that it could give a grown man a severe migraine. Basically, the story is about a dog, Murphy, who is the star of a TV show called Doggy 911, and it's produced by the QN network. Because, you know, that's what every TV show puts in their opening title sequence, the studio that produced it. So one day on the set of this TV show, after they wrap one of the scenes, this group of kids show up and they want to take a picture with the dog. And so this little girl's plan to do this is to call her hacker brother, who is also in a wheelchair, but we'll get to that later, and tell him to hack the limousine that the dog is in to let him out. But I don't know why they thought that that would work. Like, he's just obviously gonna run. He's a dog. He's not just gonna be like, oh, you know what? I'm gonna go take a picture with these kids now that I'm free. No, he's a dog. He's gonna run away. Obviously. It just sounds like the logic of a little kid. So, I mean, I don't know what else I'm expecting. The talking dog doesn't say anything out loud for the first 20 minutes of the movie, so there's no point where he communicates his feelings to the audience and makes his motivation clear. I guess it's just a kid's movie, so don't think about it. The rest of the movie is an attempt to retrieve the dog by two inept security guards in order to continue production of the show, which the studio seems to want to do by any means necessary, even going as far as to recast the dog after like 1 day. I know it's difficult to keep production halted for very long on something as time-dependent as a popular television series, but if the main character is missing, it's kind of a major priority. So you think you'd want to take a little bit more time to wait to find the dog, you know?
If your dog is lost, you don't look for an hour and then call it quits. You get your ass out there and you find that fucking dog.
These kids, on the other hand, listen to Murphy the dog's cries about the cruelty he endures as an animal television star and promise to keep his location at their house a secret. What a ridiculous sentence that was. There's a few protagonists in the movie. There's the sister, Sydney, who's played by a horrible child actress. There's her handicapped brother, Peter, who is also a master of the art of hacking, and you know something? For like a good 30 minutes while watching this movie, I thought that they would add a third thing, like he was a secret ninja or something. I honestly was not going to put it past the filmmakers to do something like that, but they did. It turns out he's not even really handicapped, it's just all placebo because of the death of his dad guilted him into remaining crippled. It's kind of dark for a kid's movie, but there just wouldn't be anything to his character without it, I guess. There's Peter and Sydney's mom, who is just a miserable widow with nothing to do but sit around and think about how much her life sucks. There's this lady who works for the studio directly under this big dummy. I don't know either of their names, and I don't really care. Out of all the actors in the movie, this woman is one of the better ones, but again, the bar is pretty low, especially considering the dialogue that they have to deliver.
I don't know. That dog is loved by millions.
This is Hollywood. We should be able to find a couple hundred canines anxious to be the next Murphy the Wonder Dog. Let's get on it.
This lady also has a daughter, but she's not really important to the plot, so that's all I'm going to say about her character. There's not really much substance to this movie, but there are some things about it that make it stand out just a tiny bit from the rest of the bottom of the barrel schlock. Well, for one thing, there's actually setups that pay off later in the film, a basic element of storytelling that most trash movies seem to forget about. And even though the reincorporation is about as subtle as product placement in a Sony movie, it's still noteworthy in my opinion, because it shows that whoever made this movie at least had a tiny shred of an idea what they were doing. For example, the opening sequence is a scene from the Doggy 911 television show. There's a setup with the brakes in this family's SUV being faulty, and there's a payoff when the family has to swerve out of the way. The situation may seem cartoonish and stupid, but as far as the editing and execution, it sets the bar for the tiny amount of competency that this movie has behind it. There's also a bit at the end where, spoilers, the wheelchair kid finally accepts that he can walk in a moment of crisis to save this dog from getting hit by a train. Of course, this follows a hilariously ridiculous sequence where he runs away from the security guards going 60 miles per hour in a wheelchair, and they both fly off after he hits a rock. Seriously, that actually happens in the movie. It's hilarious. I guess he used his hacking skills to enhance his wheelchair to like go that fast or something. Your antics are making your mother bankrupt, kid. There's literally a 5-minute scene where she has to explain to her kids that she's out of money because of this kid's extensive hospital bills. Movie's depressing as shit. So this kid getting over his handicap is essentially finishing whatever character arc he may have had in this movie. And it's this level of awareness in the script that separates this movie just a tiny bit from the rest of the schlock. One of my old film professors once told me that it takes a lot of talented people to make a piece of shit, which is an excellent point. The director may know his stuff, but he's still making a low-budget movie about a talking dog, and a sequel nonetheless. So he has limitations. It's true that a great filmmaker can make a movie on an iPhone and have it turn out excellent. It's also true that you can shoot a movie on an Arri Alexa and make a garbage piece of trash. It's all about being self-aware enough to produce something that reflects the work that was put into it, and also being self-aware to know what exactly it is that you're trying to make. Even though this movie looks like it was shot on a consumer HD camera, and the acting is atrocious at times, if I can walk away from it knowing that it wasn't a completely incoherent mess, and it actually gets some of the basic things right that make a movie entertaining, then I can't really criticize the people who made A Doggone Hollywood, since all they were doing was making exactly what this movie is. A movie about a talking dog and the search to find him. Sure, the plot may be full of dumb things that pad out the running time, but I'll say that this movie rides the line between acceptable and complete crap so often that it's kind of head-scratching to say the least, which is why I rated this movie a 4 out of 10. It wasn't enough to praise, nor was it enough to completely analyze to death, which is why I'm not going to blast this movie as much as I did Yoga Hosers or Kick-Ass 2. The intent here isn't malicious, scummy, or lazy. It's perfectly appropriate for the subject matter. If the level of effort put into this movie were any higher, I'd be shocked and honestly insulted. It'd be like paying $10 a month to watch a $3 million movie starring a bunch of talentless YouTubers. Just a waste of my time for something that tries to take itself so seriously. The point is, this movie doesn't take itself very seriously. At least not enough to warrant a hefty review about it. There's stuff in this movie to entertain kids, like a zipline chase, the over-the-top acting by the security guys, the sequence with all the different dogs trying to audition even though they all suck, and of course the talking dog itself. So I can't say this movie failed, because I feel like if I showed this to a young child, they would keep watching it, even through all of the filler scenes of dialogue that drag the movie out. Or maybe they just go play Angry Birds instead. I don't know. A Doggone Hollywood is a silly kids movie about a talking dog, and the only reason that I'm reviewing it is because I just happened to stumble upon it. And I figured it looked silly enough to entertain me. And honestly, let me just say that there's about 20% of this movie that I was actually, in fact, entertained by, so I can't completely dismiss it. Would I recommend it? Not really. Just know that movies like this exist, and not all of them are completely terrible. At least, not this one. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to get back to blasting people on the internet about why their opinions on Star Wars movies are wrong. Star Wars: The Last Jedi is a cinematic masterpiece.
Ah, yes. Ah.